Hello, it's a pleasant morning. Today, the 31st of October 2024. We have 2 months to go to actually end the year, and I hope that you were able to achieve some of your goals, if not all. And if you're yet to achieve any, please do not feel discouraged. You still have some time to do that as far as you put your mind to do it. The program is the Dailies, where we look at some of the happenings on the paper, among which we're seeing that the headlock, or rather where we saw in Rivers between Fubara and Wiki, where we're seeing that the court have decided to hold back the allocation that will be coming into the state, even though the governor of the state, Fubara, have promised to keep paying salaries and other contracts that are pending. So these and other stories are what we will love to look at this morning. So please get engaged, drop your comment, drop your views, as they are always welcome on the show. I am Sele Elisha Dashom. I'm doing this program together with Rachel Tanzi. Good morning.
Morning, Sele.
All right, we have quite a number of papers. We'll love to start with this day newspaper.
The big story on this day, like Obasanjo did to Lagos, court stops Rivers allocations under President Tinubu. Questions mount. Can court stop direct constitutional provision? This is a question. I was ambushed in peace deal, Fubara declares. Atiku warns judiciary not to set state on fire. Oyedele defends new tax bill, says proposed amendments meant to usher fairer template for VAT distribution. The writer says Jega warns federal government not to heed every advice programs from IMF. Indume saying federal government shouldn't punish poor Nigerians with more taxes. Federal government restores power supply to some northern states after 10-day blackout. On economic hardship, NLC to demand further review of workers' salaries. You can start with the details on the front page. Tinubu appoints Major General Oluyede acting army chief, assures of enhanced security. We have pictures of the first caption, NGF meets Council of Traditional Rulers, and the second one, finishing strong with project inauguration. You can find details of this story on page 42, and that's all the news on this day newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, we have Defense Headquarters debunk reported terrorist takeover of military training area in Niger State. I think we saw that story yesterday on some of the papers, and now we're seeing that the Armed Forces of Nigeria have actually come out to debunk that report. You can do well to start reading that on page 2 and continue as well. Federal government justify 4 toll gates on Abuja Kefi Makurdi Expressway. Tinubu appoint Major General Olufemi Oluyede as the acting chief of army staff. 9 states record no medical equipment purchase in 2023. This is a report you can find on page 9. And here we have Atiku to the judiciary. Don't set Rivers on fire as court stops CBN from releasing monthly financial allocations to river government. You can find that on page 2. As well, we are seeing your policies killing Nigerians. PRP tells Tinubu. That's talking about the People's Redemption Party, where we have the writer saying wants the president to rethink playing IMF World Bank script on fuel subsidy and currency devaluation. Technology crucial to tackling national security challenges, coming from Ribado. You can find that on page 11. We have a picture story here. You can do well to get the paper in more detail of stories of interest to you.
On Leadership newspaper, starting with the first story, Senate confirms Ilwada, Ujuku 5 others as ministers. Don't take everything IMF tells you, Jega warns federal government. Reps to partner leadership in combating poverty. You can find details on page 7. The big story, Constitution Amendment. Bill for traditional rulers' role, funding ready. Governors, monarchs meet in Aso Rock, seek support. You can find details on page 4. Major General Oluyede appointed acting chief of army staff. Court stops Rivers' monthly allocations. TCN restores power to North after 9 days. Sanwo-Olu Edun orders hail Adebutu for building media center. And that's all the news on leadership.
On the Blueprint newspaper, where we have Senate confirmed Bianca Ojukwu Yilwada, 5 others as ministers. We will recall yesterday the screening held and they have been sworn in. We hope that they will take up their responsibility and represent their state as well as represent the country in their various places of assignment. And looking at business, we have World Bank ties fresh $750 million loan for Nigeria to tax increases. Dinko resumes as NSC chairman, unveils 3-point agenda. You can follow that in the paper. 1 month after Lagbaja absent, Tinubu appoint Oluyede acting chief of army staff. No inch of military training area under bandit control in Niger. Still confirming that, saying the fact that nothing is happening there coming from the defense headquarters. Atiku cautious as court halts CBN from releasing allocation to Fubara. And we're seeing excitement as TCN restore power supply to some northern states, 10 days after, where we're having here the blueprint saying 1 week after, and it's saying to northern state, but I believe there's still some northern state that are yet to get power, and we're seeing that presently as we are talking, yes, I think the light has actually gone back, so maybe they are rationing it. But we hope they'll come out with something tangible to explain that. You can continue reading more detail of that in the paper. Concerning 2023 electoral offenders, INEC tackles Syrup says we are not in contempt of court, with rather allegation flat in the face of fact at public domain. You can find more detail in the paper. We have other stories on the front page of the paper, which we will love you to get the paper in more detail of, and that's all on Blueprint newspaper.
On Vanguard newspaper, money supply increases 64% to 108.95 trillion naira. Atiku, Mossop, others warn as court stops monthly allocations to rivers. The writer says a TAL-led committee will restore peace between Wike and Fubara and assurance from Pandev. Workers poorer now despite pay increases, Oshomole laments. Tinubu appoints Major General Olufemi Oluyede acting COAS. You can find details on page 8. The big story on Vanguard, fuel price increases pushing Nigerians to the limit, a statement from Labour. The writer says government shouldn't be surprised if citizens react in unexpected manner. Subsidy removal worsening production cost, transportation and others, a statement from employers group. Marketers spend days at Dangote refinery buying through NNPCL. This is a report from Ipman. As marketers will be happier to buy directly from refinery. Argues Nigerians will see price reduction if marketers buy direct from refinery. Of course, we do know that NNPCL sells it differently to marketers as compared to what will be gotten directly from the refinery itself. You can find details on page 5. How poultry packaging cartels fix prices, and FCCPC boss Tunji Bello is saying. You can find how they're doing it on page 9. Federal government justifies four toll gates on Abuja-Kefi Makurdi Expressway. On crash, NCAA dismisses reports on choppers' airworthiness. Details can be found on page 9. We have a column where determined to flush out terrorists in Nigeria. You can find details on page 31, a statement from the defense minister. On ministerial appointments, Senate confirms Bianca Odumegu Ojukwu and 6 others. A sports column on page 28 concerning the FIFA Under-20 WWC. NFF proud of Flamingos out in a statement from Sanusi. A picture where we can see a Debutu Media Resource Center commissioned at NIJ. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
All right, looking at the Guardian newspaper, Fubara Wike face off new twists as Rivers stakeholders fold allocation suspension order. You can read that on page 6. TCN restore power to North as IHRC says 1.5 trillion naira lost to blackout. And NAAT may join NASU SANU strike over salary arrears issues ultimatum. Yesterday we saw where they said the government is yet to come up with what they are going to do to stop them, and nothing is being said concerning their pay. Energy cause Japa syndrome will threaten survival of varsity system. You can find that on page 7. And on tax reform bills, Ndume Ariwa Group lock horns as NGF traditional rulers meet. Tinubu appoints Oluyede as the acting army chief. Concerning governance, More Ibrahim reports cost Nigeria low. Electing officials selfish on determining citizens' welfare, Jega laments. You can find out on page 8. INEC blames non-trial of offenders on outdated laws and others. Senate confirms Tinubu's 7 ministerial nominees. You can find out on page 3. And concerning sexual harassment, reps have proposed a 40 years jail term for offenders, and we hope that that bill will be passed, and then we hope that it will be taken very seriously, as people are really suffering as a result of that. Obaseki Zamfara governor orders advocate sustainability of project, where we saw one of the picture of Obaseki trying to round up some of the project as he's doing his tenure almost rounding up. You can find that on page 8, and that's all on Guardian newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, Fubara appeals as court stops Rivers allocations. Striking varsity workers vow showdown as federal government revolves talks. Tinubu appoints Oluyede acting COAS as Labaja undergoes treatment. Still on Ondo governorship poll, PDP APC trade blame over campaign violence. SDB upbid as deputy governor candidate defects to APC. You can find details inside the paper. The big story is on petrol rising cost. Marketers write Dangote over bulk purchase deal. Ipman, Petro and I refineries 500 million PMS reserves queues in Abuja after NNPCL's price hike. Police arrest 1,246 arms dealers. Kidnappers recover 3,172 ammunition in October. And then we have a picture story where we can see the ammunitions recovered and also the kidnappers and the armed dealers. Still on the paper, Bianca Ojukwu, other ministers set for swearing in after Senate confirmation. Commuters demand quick repair of damaged Lagos Bridge. On food inflation, 7 imported wheat vessels arrive Nigeria. That's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On the Voice of Liberty, Tinubu appoint acting chief of army staff Olufemi Oluyede. With Naira for crude transaction, oil sector will be stable coming from the president Tinubu. Don't do everything IMF World Bank asks you to, Jega tells Tinubu, says their policies are anti-people. You can find detail in the paper. And we have the Independent Broadcasting Association of Nigeria inaugurate John Momu, Ramalan, and others as board of trustee, where we can see the picture here. And this happened at the channel's television headquarters in Lagos. Court Chief Yahya Bello's trial to January 2025. INEC refutes Sirap's claim on persecution of electoral offenders. Concerning Rivers, court bars CBN from releasing allocation to state government. And we have fuel supply to increase as federal government grant companies license to operate refineries in Nigeria. So hoping we'll have more people, with the license, not just the NNPCL. More detail concerning this can be found in the paper. That's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On Nigerian Tribune, the big story, Fubara talks tough. Atiku warns as court stops CBN from releasing allocation to Rivers. The rider is on a defection. Court strikes out pro-Wike lawmakers suit against INEC, PDP, and others. Bianca Ojukwu, 6 others get Senate confirmation as ministers. Ipman replies Dangote marketers spend days at your refinery unable to load petrol. So I believe the Dangote refinery needs to do something about the quick service for uploading petrol for marketers. Reps move to revoke Bishop Oyedepo's church art stripe license. You can find details on page 2. Court grants Abia lawmaker 500,000 naira bail over assault on boat driver. AFCC arrests 55 Yahoo boys in Offa. You can find details of this story on page 28. Adeleke denies receiving 8 billion naira LUTEC fund. Tinubu approves appointment of Major General Oluyede as acting OAS. You can continue with our story on page 2. Fresh controversies over northern governors' opposition to tax reform bills. Now, the writers under the story says PANDEF, MBF, XYCE, Chief back plant reforms amendment. VAT amendment on the basis of derivation necessary, a statement from MBF. Ariwa Group counters northern governors, and governors should think out of the box, a finance expert is saying. Ndume backs northern leaders. VAT sharing proposal will create a fair system for all, statement from Oyedele. That's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Nation newspaper, Tinubu appoint Major General Oluyede as the acting army chief. EFCC arrests refinery MD over $35 million brass project fraud. You can find that on page 3. Sanwo-Olu Enole 18th floor Ibom Tower Foundation in Lagos. Vessel with Petrojet A1 and others spread in Lagos. Data found on page 3. Concerning Ondo 2024 APC campaign council target 80% votes, and then we have parties pass confidence vote in INEC. SDP running mate dump the party for APC. ADC candidate promises improved security. All of the stories can be found on page 4. Assigning portfolios to ministerial nominees excites senators, where we have Senate clear all the 7 nominees amid drama and battles. Nomination of Ambassador Ojukwu, evidence of inclusive government. We know that the Southwest, or rather the Southeast, have been complaining of not being included in decision. So us having Ojukwu, according to her, Bianca, we're seeing that she's been included. Now we have I think more like a statement here that says no president has done it. I wish future president will do so by attaching portfolios to names of nominees. So here are the pictures of some of them that have been cleared as fit and proper to serve. More detail found on page 2. Traditional rulers to get constitutional rule in government. Ozodinma leads the panel to prepare the bill concerning that. Court stops CBN AGF from releasing allocation to Rivers. Fulbright is saying we will continue working despite the allocation being held back. How cartel caused high prices of poultry product by FCCPC boss, and we hope something will be done about that because the price of poultry products are quite high. You can find that story on page 5, and that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On Daily Independent, federal government uncovers cartel behind skyrocketing poultry prices. Tinubu names Major General Oluyede as acting chief of army staff. The big story is on the Port Harcourt helicopter crash. Now we have crashed helicopter debris yet to be found 1 week after. It is an embarrassing situation for Nigeria. A statement from Coal Creek. We are not prepared for such rescue in aviation. A statement from Badamasi. Malaysia Airlines plane debris not found 10 years on. A statement from Sanusi. We do understand that sometimes when an aircraft crashes, it's sometimes difficult to recover the plane or even some of the missing bodies. However, I just hope that we do not just sweep it under the carpet in the name that there are certain planes that have disappeared for 5 years and therefore nothing can be done about it. Let there be a rescue team on it day and night, and eventually we will find answers. You can find details on page 29. Academic technologists embark on nationwide strike November 14. Protest commences November 6. Governors monarchs to advance joint security role bill within 4 weeks. Higher institutions reps OK 14-year jail term for sexual harassment. Senate confirms 7 ministerial nominees. Court grants rep who assaulted boat driver 500,000 naira bail. Still on the paper, condemnations trail court order stopping Rivers allocations. The writer says Atiku cautions judiciary not to set state on fire. Opposition rep says it is height of judicial rascality. Nigeria's solid mineral sector rakes in 747.28 billion naira in 2024/2023 financial year. You can find details on page 6 and also a picture where we can see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu alongside Senator Adamu and Senator Yahya and others. And that's all the news on Daily Independent.
Rachel, I just wanted to ask a question, which I believe is a question Nigerians are asking the government, is the fact that why is the government yet to talk to the senior association and non-academic staffs? And now we're seeing that even the technologies are going to join in that strike, yes, because there is going to be protests come next week, that's November 6th. And I really knew that the government have what it takes to handle or to settle all of these. But the question will be, why is the government refusing to attend to them? I mean, since we've heard about that strike, we've not heard that the government called the NASU as well as even the Senior Staff Association for a meeting. And we know they have complained the fact that it seems the government was actually being partial because they attended to ASU but refused to attend to them. Of course, we know we might say it's an umbrella that puts everyone together. But I mean, when we have our non-academic staff not on duty, what it entails is the fact that the school is locked. Of course. Nobody to open the gate, starting from the security man, the cleaners, and even the bursary and every other person. And just when we're happy that the new session is just starting. We know how much of delay before, I mean, the ASU was saying they were going to go on a strike before I think school started, and then we're seeing that the session has been cut short as well because of this. So I think this is a question that Nigerians need an answer. We're seeing that the Japa syndrome is getting high because parents would rather sell all of their properties, send their wards abroad to just go school there. And then we're seeing that even some of the schools or some of this country are beginning to change some of their policies, their travel policies over there. So what are we saying? And I know that this might sound like we have said this a number of times, but we'll not get tired because we're yet to get the right answer coming from our government. It seems as if you don't care what happened to Nigerian students. Because, I mean, Nigerians will say, maybe because your words are not schooling in this school, and that is why you really don't care about what happened to them. But I just don't want to believe that the government don't care. But I hope that let it be that it's an oversight, but they need to come back to the drawing board, because if we're talking about some of the key sectors that the eyes of the government should be, education should be part of it. We're seeing even the health sector suffering. So at this point in time, it's very difficult for you to point out a sector that is not suffering as a result of negligence coming from the government. So I hope they come out with an answer why they are refusing to call these bodies, have a talk, or even pay them whatever arrears they are talking about, because I know that ASU is here to come up with their own. I believe that they have not even done anything about ASU, talking about 2009 agreement, and we're in 2024, almost going to 2025. So I hope the government comes up with something more like a reasonable excuse why they have refused to call them.
So that this administration needs to do better by listening to these unions and bodies. Just as you said, in as much as we have NASU and then the Senior Staff Association being under the umbrella of ASU altogether, but they have their reasons why they are embarking on this strike, which is separate from ASU regardless. And then this government, of course, we keep saying the government has information and resource, so we can't say that they don't know what is happening in this country, or they don't know how big the problem is for these unions and what they are fighting. And what that entails is that at the long run, if they do not listen or answer, we're done hearing them saying they have heard. We want you to take actions. We are tired of a promise-driven government. We are looking forward to an action-driven administration, and we are yet to see that from this administration so far. So many cheap talks and no action whatsoever. Is that eventually, if you see the pattern in which this strike started, it's almost like a partial strike. It started from certain universities. We saw UNN, we saw Unilorin starting, we saw UNN joining, and then we started seeing other universities joining. Gradually, it's almost like, you know what, this is our strategy as a union. We start one major university after another, and okay, if this university is on strike, the second will join, the third will join, the fourth, the fifth will join, giving you know, the government a long thread to say, okay, we are serious, we need you to hear. UNN is a very big university. We can talk, every federal university is
It's
very
quite big.
large, so you're giving them time, and then the government is still not doing anything about it. And it's a matter of time that other union, even ASU, could step in and say, you know what, this is part of us and we need to support them also. And whether this government likes it or not, even if they try to close their eyes towards what is happening in the university, is not for long, because we can sit down here and see where our schools are lagging behind and where the government needs to step in, and they are refusing to step in. There are certain allocations. Looking at the things that you put in place, if you're making certain economic decisions and policies, it's also affecting education. And if you're not stepping in to say, okay, you know what, there's also a system that is suffering from these decisions and policies, then you are not being a balanced government. And what it means is that it's not even about JAPA, because when it comes to school, even before now, we have parents selling everything to go out there. But the concern is, what is the quality of our education in this country? And that is the part that is more frightening. And I think in the end, it will look as if we have lecturers that don't know or cannot function, but at the same time, are they given the tools to function and all of that? So it's also on their own side fighting to say, you know what, that the fingers don't get point back at us, that we are the problem, but the government also needs to do something about it. The Tinubu's administration can turn their eyes, but it's just for a matter of time. They have to face these unions, they have to face our tertiary institutions and do the needful. If not, we might witness a period of a very long period of time that nothing substantial have happen differently in our institution, and therefore it means that we might just have schools, but then education, proper education, is not taking place. Yes.
True. Because while you were talking, I just had to cast my mind back to when I was in the university and we knew the way it was. I mean, some of the classes, you could see how jam-packed students are, and then learning is not even taking place. As far as you're concerned, we are at the back of the class. You could barely hear what the lecturer is saying, because they are not even amplifiers to help that lecturer to speak. So you are the extreme end, can actually hear him. So it's either you are early for lecture or you forget about that lecture, and yet exams will be given whether you like it or not. The lecturer is concerned, he has taught you what you need to know. So looking at it, I know that students are paying for it. Certain handouts that have no business, you have to pay. Certain books you have to buy. Why? Because lecturers are trying to take care of themselves by feeding on the student, and that is not how learning is supposed to be. So we just hope that the government would do better regarding that. Well, before we continue with the paper review, we'd love to take a break, just so that you go through the stories. What do you feel about the ruling concerning the withheld allocation for Rivers State, where we're seeing Atiku talking about it? Jega as well is saying the fact that the government should stop listening to every advice coming from the IMF as well as the World Bank. So quite a number of stories on the paper. We're having a new acting chief of army staff. So, I mean, quite a number of things are happening in the country. So when we come back, we will continue with this paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper where we're saying that the president have appointed acting chief of staff, President of Olufemi, and we also have where INEC is talking about the fact that because of outdated laws, they are yet to persecute certain election offenders, and then we are having the fact that the court have passed a rule whereby Rivers will not be getting their allocation from CBN. So quite a number of things are happening. We would love to have your own take concerning what you feel about this, as well as we're seeing that SANU, that's talking about the Senior Staff Association, as well as non-academic staff, are still on strike. So we hope that the government will pay attention to what their needs are, as well as to meet it up. I still have Rachel with me. Thank you so much, Rachel.
You're welcome, Celia.
All right, let's take a look at another paper, which is Nigerian News Direct, where we have TCN restore power to 7 northern states. So we have about 10 or more to go. You can look at that story on page 2. Marketers cite pricing issue for non-patronage of Dangote refinery. Embattled Abia lawmaker faces assault charges, granted 500,000 naira bail. You can find that on page 2. First Bank joined partnership of carbon accounting financials. Tinubu appoints Oluyede as acting chief of army staff. You can find out on page 2. Concerning cabinet reshuffle, Senate approved Tinubu's 7 ministerial nominees as total ministerial count hit 48. You can find out on page 3. We have pictures where we can see Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos and also Governor Eno of Akwa Ibom during the laying floor in Lagos State recently. And that's all on Nigerian News Direct.
On New Telegraph concerning PMS, Ipman threatens to import product over Dangote refinery's delay. Urges management to review marketing strategy, alleges NNPC Limited owed members 40 billion naira. 54 million Nigerian adults have certified bank accounts, statistics from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Tinubu appoints Major General Oluyede acting chief of army staff. Why electoral offenders prosecution is very slow by INEC. Senate confirms Tinubu's 7 ministerial nominees. On hardship, employers should pay more than 70,000 naira minimum wage, Oshomole is saying. The big story on the paper, Fubara Wike crisis worsen as court stops CBN from releasing allocation to Rivers, says governor's 2024 budget not passed by appropriate House of Assembly. Don't put Rivers State on fire, Atiku tells judiciary as mixed reactions great judgment. Group hails Senator Kalu's school infrastructure intervention. Crashed PH helicopter was airworthy. NCAA is debunking the fact that it wasn't a good aircraft in the first place. Assault on Uber driver, court grants lawmaker Ukweche 500,000 naira bail. South Africa to strip Nigerian beauty queen of ID documents. You can find details of this story on page 6. We have a story on insecurity. Reps ask federal government to stop airstrike license to individuals, organizations, and withdraw existing approvals. You can find details of this story on page 3 and 6. Japa energy crisis may lead to varsity system collapse in 2024, a VC is saying, and I hope that the federal government listens to our varsities heads. You can find details on page 4 and 6. We have a study, poor sleep plays key role in suicidal thoughts. So I do hope we take our sleep seriously, because a lot of studies on sleep, we always find a lot of studies on sleep on New Telegraph, and it shows us how important sleep is. You can go to the internet and browse sleep according to your age. I know the younger you are, the more sleep you need, but as an adult, it reduces. However, you shouldn't have anything less than 7 hours of sleep. If you're not getting more than 7 hours of sleep, you are not having enough hours of sleep. I know we might say, okay, we are busy, we need to get up and go to work early and all of that, but you also need to sleep early for you to be able to rise early. So it means if you need to be early, then you should be in bed at most by 9 p.m. so that you can have your 7 hours of sleep and still be able to wake up and then go to work and function for the day. Sleep is very important. We can't overemphasize that regardless of how busy your schedule is, but you need to sleep or else you will pay dearly for it in the future.
You know, there's this saying that said that if you refuse to give your body the rest, the body will get the rest it needs eventually, one way or the other. So you deny yourself sleep, eventually, you know, you can't cheat nature. Your body knows a way out of it to get it. So just like you said, we should not just look at the studies like just one of the studies. We should take them seriously, cross-check it, and be sure that we do the right thing as expected, especially when it comes to sleep, because our brain really, really needs that on board. Well, I guess that's all on New Telegraph.
Yes.
Let's take a look at First News newspaper, where we have Nigerian embassy, a married product of my time, coming from Bianca Uchuku. You can find that story in the paper. And then as well, we have court adjourned Yaya Bello's money laundering case to January 2025. Army refutes claim of bandit season training camp, calls allegation false. Ipman questioned Dangote claim of 500 million liters of petrol in stock, and you wonder why Dangote cannot just sell it directly to marketers. We need to have a bridge from NNPCL down to these marketers. And then concerning Rivers in financial limbo, which is a big story, Fubara have promised or pledged salaries despite court-ordered allocation freeze. Tinubu loyalists manipulating judiciary to destabilize Rivers, coming from Atiku. He's warning. You can find that in the paper. Tinubu appoint Major General Oduyede as the acting chief of army staff to serve until Lieutenant General Labaja returned from medical treatment. Tax the wealthy, not the poor. Indume criticized federal government tax plan. Senate confirms Tinubu new ministerial nominees. You can find that in the paper. We have the picture story where we see President Bodan, Senator Adamu, Senator Yala Abdullahi, and General Garba at the presidential villa yesterday. That's all the First News newspaper.
On the Matrix newspaper, amid backlash, IMF says it stands by advice to Nigerian government on subsidy removal and foreign exchange. JEGA advises federal government to reject IMF, World Bank's anti-people policies. Carabao Cup, Man United begin life after Ten Hag with victory, and I hope that the victory continues. You can find details on page 22. Confusion surrounds Labaja's fate as Tinubu names Oluyede as acting chief of army staff. The writer says military denies ceding training camp to terrorists. TCN restores power supply in Kano, Kaduna, and other northern states, including Plateau, because we saw light the evening yesterday and towards the early hours of this morning. You can find details of what the TCN is up to on page 3. Senate confirms Tinubu's 7 new ministerial nominees. The big story on the paper, outrage trails judgment halting Rivers allocation. Judicial decisions of this nature pose serious threat to Nigeria's democracy and economic stability, CISLAC is saying. Says CJN must act decisively in maintaining judicial standards, caution judges against destabilizing rulings. Nigerians are losing confidence in judiciary, Atiku cries out. Ipman questions Dangote's 500 million fuel stock claim since they have to wait that long to have access to it. NICOM dissolves African Alliance Insurance Company's board of directors. Rep member Kweche charged for boat driver's assault granted 500,000 naira bail. We have an entertainment story. Can find details on page 21, and we have a picture with the caption boosting tourism and culture, where we can see Vice President Kashim Shettima fought from left in a group photograph with a delegation from the Abuja International Carnival at the presidential villa in Abuja yesterday, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On Business Day newspaper, Nigerians expect swift resolution on Shell and Renaissance deal. You can find that on the front page and continue on page 31. Airfare jumped 250% in 12 months amid Christmas booking. Already people are booking to leave the country or to travel to one part of the country. Demand for road trips also is rising. More detail found in the paper. New school curriculum prepares students for blue collar jobs. You can find out on page 30. Tinubu appoint Oduyede as the acting chief of army staff. And we have federal government secure GDL Group's commitment to offtake natural gas for $4 billion hot briquetted iron steel plant. You can find out on page 31. We have picture story. This is concerning First Bank Holdings during their budget and economic planning during the 2024 Annual Directors Conference in Lagos yesterday. And that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Punch Sport Extra, we have some interesting stories here. We have Knock Knock. Orokodare bangs Super Eagles door with 8 goals for Jeng, meaning he should be called to the Eagles camp for our future matches. And we have Uche on Villa Newcastle Raider. Edo Queen celebrate Ijamulisi Starling Falcons debut. Saudi Osime's next destination. This is a quote, and we do not know if that is his next destination. You can find details on page 6. 4 EPL clubs battle for Chukwueze. West Ham plot Lukman move, and we have NFF loots Flamingos as girls return home dejected. You can find details on page 6. Medvedev loses to Popperim at Paris Masters. The boys versus Joshua talks stall as IBF steps in. On Ballon d'Or, Figo empathizes with Madrid. You can find details of his empathy on page 3. And we have Ten Hag blames Rashford, Casemiro, attorney for United failure. I don't think a coach can do that, even if you're no longer a coach. You are the leader, and I think these players play according to your strategies. Arteta vows to keep annoying rivals with injury updates. Palmer tells Liverpool contract decision, and that's all the news on Point Sports Extra.
Well, I guess that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you to all our viewers. Thank you to our supporters and everyone who always keep a date with us on this program. We look forward again to doing this together tomorrow. So do have a great day ahead.